The Vancouver Canucks are the NHL's only winless team right now. Justin Pooni of Locked On Canucks joins us to talk about what his team can do to get out of this early season slump. We've got that and a lot more coming up on this episode of the Locked On NHL Podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to the Locked On NHL Podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today, and thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show the host of Locked On Vancouver Canucks, Justin Pooni. And Justin, a little bit of a disappointing start to the season here for Vancouver. If you could sum it up in a paragraph or two, what's going wrong so far?
A paragraph might be a bit too. I think it's you said it perfectly off the top. Just disappointing. This team, I was high on this team coming into the season. We talked before the season started. I came on and I said that this team should be a playoff team. The skill level and the players they have, especially in their forward group. And in net, they should be, competitive every night, and they should be winning some games. Before the season started, like the week before, the 5-game road trip, I had said, if this team can hover around 500, or, get a 2 wins, a couple OT losses or whatever, that would be a successful road trip. Well, the first game, they got to a great start in Edmonton, and I'm like, wow, maybe this is actually going to come to fruition. And they, of course, blew a lead to the Oilers, which I kind of gave them a pass on. I'm like, hey, look, it's the Edmonton Oilers, McDavid, Draisaitl, home opener. They're going to be fired up. There's going to be no quit. So I'll give that excuse. Then they go to Philadelphia, which I thought would be an easy victory, given the Flyers going to the season. Now, the Flyers have been an extremely big surprise this season so far anyway. But they blow another lead in Philadelphia. Okay. Now I sense there's a bit of a pattern happening. Go to Washington. They go down. They come back. Score 2 goals in 11 seconds. They take the lead. And the third period hits, and they don't. Then they lose again. So then now the panic is starting to set in. And at that point, I was kind of like, you know what? They still got 2 games left. At that point in time, Columbus and Minnesota had not had a win on their record at all. And they go to Columbus and they go to Minnesota and they lose both games in overtime. And you could just sense that there's a lot of pressure on this team to finally win. And there's still a whole lot of pressure. And you saw kind of, I think last night was rock bottom. At least I hope. I don't know if there's any more lower you can go. There was 3 jerseys thrown on the ice. Fans were booing. And if you just go, in Canada right now, the Canucks are number 2 trending on Twitter. Right? So it just shows you just how passionate this fan base is, how angry this fan base is, and just how disappointed we are because we expected a lot more. And I don't know if changes are going to happen. Jim Rutherford did speak last night saying that we can't make just a move for the sake of making a move. But if they lose tomorrow, where do you draw the line, right? So definitely a disappointing and kind of a gut punch to start the season.
One of the problems, at least statistically, has been goaltending. Thatcher Demko's save percentage just .858. The goals against average over 4. Has it been the defense in front of them? Has it been the goaltending, or is it a combination of both?
It's a combination of both. I would say, this defense core has been hit with a lot of injuries. Of course, Quinn Hughes didn't play last night. He's day-to-day. Tucker Poolman is out, and we know with his concussion history, we don't know if he's potentially ever going to come back and play. Tyler Myers just returned. Of course, Travis Dermott is still out. And, they're relying on guys that just, quite frankly, are not NHL defensemen. As much as, Vancouver native Kyle Burroughs is a good organizational depth defenseman. And when I say that, a guy that can, slide up and down and play serviceable minutes. But when you're relying on a guy like that, you can't have it. When you're relying on a guy like Luke Shen, you can't have it. But That's the mess the Canucks made. They have to live with the mess they made. They have to sleep in that bed, and because they made that mess, right? Does Thatcher Demko need to be better? Yes, absolutely. People were saying before this season started, he could get some serious Vezina consideration. Well, he doesn't look like that right now. And I've harped on this the whole summer, and this team is only going to go as far as Pettersson, Hughes, and Demko take them. Those three are the key pillars of this organization. Yes, JT Miller's there and has been playing well, but those three guys need to show that, hey, we can be superstar level players. And Pettersson has had flashes of that. Hughes, of course, been battling an injury, and Demko just hasn't reached that level of play just yet. So it's been a bad start. It's exactly what every Canucks fan wanted to avoid, considering what happened last year, but they find themselves in this predicament again. Now they got to dig themselves out of this hole once again.
So how? How do they dig themselves out? And do you expect the coaching staff to make any changes in the lineup?
Well, you're seeing that now. So from practice today, JT Miller was moved back to the wing, playing along with Bo Horvat. And quite frankly, I think that's when they had their most success. When JT Miller is playing on the wing and you're not relying on him to be that top dog, that number one center, because quite frankly, he never really played center until he got here, right? He's always been a natural winger. So when you force him to be that number one guy, to keep all that on his plate, and I get it. He had the big year last year, got the big new deal, but he's had turnovers. He got into it with Luke Shen yesterday at an intermission. He was on the ice for all 8 goals at the beginning of the season. I need to see JT Miller. Now, I don't know if it's because, the whole contract dispute, and then he had a baby and he hasn't really had a chance to really just focus it on hockey. Well, it's time for him to focus in on hockey now because he's getting paid a lot of money. He's going to be counted on. I need to see JT Miller do what JT Miller does best, and that's play a hard-nosed 200-foot game. I need to see Brock Besser. He cannot be invisible anymore, right? Brock Besser has the skill set to be a 30-goal scorer. He came into this season saying, I want to hit the 30-goal plateau. Well, a 30-goal scorer does not go MIA for extended periods of time. You have to be a difference maker out there. So I think the onus is on the big guys on this team. These guys that get paid big ticket contracts, those are the guys that have to lead this franchise out of this dark spell. It's not, I know Canucks fans love complaining about ownership and rebuilding and all of this and all of that. And I've never been a big proponent of rebuilding, especially right now, because as I'm sure all you guys know, Canucks fans are very irrational with their emotions, right? So the last 24 hours has been to strip the whole team down. We should have rebuilt. We should have done that. Well, you know what? I don't believe in that because the 3 best players on this team are all in their primes, right? Or, the big 3 guys I just mentioned earlier. What's the sense of rebuilding? You want them to play meaningful hockey and keep on growing, right? You have insulated a nice young pieces. Andrei Kuzmenko has played well. He's had his on a little bit of a dry spell, but I see that he can be an NHL player. Vasily Podkolzin has played well. It's time now for these big guys on this team to kind of just shake loose and grab control of the season before it's too late. And we're getting near that territory.
We are indeed. The next 6 games, all on Pacific time. 5 of them are at home. It's a big opportunity for this team to make up some ground.
Absolutely. And I said last week on my show, I said before they go out on that Eastern Conference swing, they need to have at least 5 wins on their record. If they don't have at least 5 wins on their record by that point before they go back out east, there has to be a coaching change. There has to be something to just change the mental capacity of this roster. Now, with that being said, though, I do think once this team kind of gets that monkey off their back and that first win, I do get the sense that wins will start flowing. It's just a matter of if and when that first win comes. So,
well, we'll see when that is. Justin, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Absolutely. So you can go to YouTube, type in Locked On Canucks for the first thing that pops up. Tomorrow we will have our game breakdown for the Canucks tomorrow night against the Carolina Hurricanes. You can also follow me on Twitter at Process Sports with an underscore at the end on both Instagram and Twitter. And, of course, follow our show at Locked On Canucks. And then, as you mentioned, Gil, we are available on every podcasting platform.
All right, Justin, always a pleasure to have you here. Hopefully next time under better circumstances.
Absolutely.
Take care. The numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen Simply Safe Home Security to protect their home. You don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At Simply Safe, your safety is the only thing that matters. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. Here's why I love it. Simply Safe blankets your home in protection with advanced sensors for every room, window, and door, HD security cameras for inside and outside your home, smarter ways to detect motion that only alert you when the threat is real, and even hazard sensors that instantly detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. Save 20% on your Simply Safe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month absolutely free. Visit simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl to learn more. There's no safe like Simply Safe.